Welcome to CivilNet. Our guest today is Arsen Stepanyan, who has a decade-long experience in both governmental and non-governmental organizations focused on developing regulation and legislation. So Arsen, you help develop policy both at local and national level. You have been both an observer and a participant in that process. So tell us, how does the Yerevan City Council make and implement policy, and how do they arrive at their budget?
Good morning, and thank you for the invite. Yerevan City Council is increasingly becoming an interesting institution and a target for civic groups and policy-interested advocates, organizations, and they have traditionally been active in the national policy level, partly because they are a large part of the society of country, and a major part of economy is actually concentrated in Yerevan. For example, the city budget for Yerevan for this year is projected, I think it's like 180 something million US dollars equivalent of it. It's like 82 billion Armenian drams. So it's huge money, and it's important how that money is kind of decided upon, how its money is spent. And during last several years, there were also these different movements, processes going on, so people speaking up. One of those issues were the transportation issue, the 100 drum movement process, and that was clearly a policy issue, an important policy issue that didn't end up in a positive process and still is in the process of discussion. So it's between the public and between the Yerevan City Council and Yerevan municipality. That's an example. Another example you have seen very often includes the parks. Parks and recreation is another important area for the decision-making area for municipality. So what happens usually, people are speaking up about their issues, concerns, and again there were several cases in last between the 2013 elections and today where people were speaking up. The difference is, I think, the scale. When on a national level people are advocating, supporting, or kind of promoting legislation which affects everyone. In this case, the issues that are at stake includes trash collection, including the preschool education. It may be parks and recreation. It may be city lightening issues, construction and zoning issues. So those are like very local issues. So it's small groups of people are kind of presenting their issues versus becoming a national, large-scale movements. So that's from one side. From the other side
So those are some of the specific issues, the trash collection, the transportation that the city council specifically deals with.
That is correct. So example I'm bringing relate to the realm of authority of city council in this case, or any local government in Armenia, right? So, but what happens when on a national level we have organizations on both sides, like the policymakers, but then organizations who are advocating for participants of the policy process. On a community level, this is a slow or new trend. This is the second time that in Yerevan the elections will be on a proportional political party list, so political parties are participating, and it's now extended to Vanadzor and Gyumri too. So it's a new trend. So until now, or before that, it was only a broad representation. So it was not political process per se. So we have from one side individual groups, and then from other side the political parties is just a new trend. So we still need to see how this process is developing, becoming sophisticated and interesting. Right, so it's kind of a new process in development. But I didn't address your issue of the city budget, which is really important one. The 65-member city council is deciding with the majority vote on the city budget every year. It's on a yearly basis, and that city budget is linked to the annual city plan. In this case of the Yerevan city, and then there is a longer-term Yerevan development plan and the 4-year development plan. And other key document, another key document includes like the urban blueprint, which is like all the construction, zoning issues that are very important. In education sector, there are several important decisions that the city council is in charge of. It's including like the preschool education, where in Armenia it's very low, the access to preschool education. In Yerevan it's like comparatively the highest. It's like more than 1/3 of all children attending preschool education. So then there is also some healthcare facilities, support infrastructure, roads construction, trash collection. This winter was, really long and snowy, a lot of snow and a lot of precipitation. So again, we turn to City Council for funding allocation, for system. In this case, they are managing the large contract with provider, with one provider. So those are important issues. City Council is regulating the trade in city, and the most importantly, what they do, they oversee. They implement oversight over the mayor's function. So they allocate, they accept key regulations, but they also have the oversight function. That's a very important function.
Do they have oversight over the mayor's budget?
They do have oversight. That's their main function of overseeing the budget, but also all the policy activities and policy regulations.
And you mentioned the 100 Drums protest, and we saw the protests revolving around the parks. How do we make citizens feel that they have a stake on election day? We see these protests coming up naturally on their own during different times, but why is voter turnout so low during local elections, and why don't citizens feel that they have a stake in those policies on this day?
This is interesting question. I compare it with the national policy process, and I have worked with the second, third, fourth convocation national assemblies in Armenia, and I've seen the transition change from a very simplistic way of someone writing a bill and then turning it into law. Mostly it's executive, because they have a lot of lawyers and professionals and data, into currently having this sophisticated process where you see the Ministry of Justice has this e-draft process where they invite everyone to contribute well in advance, well before, to the idea of a policy process. So this is kind of the sophistication process we went through this last 15, 20 years in the national policy. So this same trend will happen on the local level, but it will take time. It will take time for both sides. First is the new culture of the political parties, forming the city council, decision-making processes, making the process political. Second is the other side of the border is the civil society actors, the non-profit sector, which needs to mobilize again. So most of the organizations we have are national level everything. So we need more community level organizations representing their local communities. Like Yerevan is divided into 12 administrative districts. So organizations that are rooted in the community. So this is a new trend we need to see, and because the two examples we discussed, the parks issue and then the movement, there were no organizations behind. So it's like groups of people and then groups of people and then the decision makers. So that's why it's not the discussion is not turning into a policy process, it's not turning into a policy outcome, it's just turning, I'm happy, I'm not happy, let's change this, I don't believe you, I believe you, into this kind of dialogue.
So do we see a difference from the discussions we saw in the parliamentary elections a few weeks ago, where it was rare to have any discussion on policy and it was about personalities of the political elite? Are we seeing a bit of a difference in local elections? Or?
Not yet, but I'm positive, I'm very hopeful that we will see. It's just a process in development. So there are two steps. The process is not the election day. Today is not the beginning, today is not the end. It's just one of the days of the process between this interaction between the city administration and the public and all these different actors, stakeholders, right? So it's just one of those days. It's just that the process on the national level has become more sophisticated, more maybe interesting, more actors, more stakes, more data use, more expertise needed. And then on a city level, it still is not that sophisticated, that developed. But the difference is that when on national level someone is speaking corruption and it's not touching your personal daily life. So you can't bring an example. The trash collection, the snow right in front of your house, the access to the preschool, the light, the lightning, the street lightning. Those are daily issues people are having problems with, and then they are facing it. So it will be more easier. It will take less time to make people engaged, and it will be kind of more easier to have people engaged. The question is that we need more institutionalized process. It will take some time.
So, and what is the one issue people should be thinking about on this election day? What is the important point? Is there one policy? Is there one action? Is there one specific thing?
Well,
or two?
There are so many. To me, a couple of interesting issues include, maybe first one will be the transportation issue and the parking. Parking is a key point for me as a driver in Yerevan city, although I recently enjoy riding the metro. It's super cool. We would love to have more, metro and kind of alternative ways of transportation. That would be fun, like bikes, maybe the culture. And the other one I really care about is the social protection and community level issues and community social services, like it may be services to children with disabilities, it may be accessible roads, it may be foster families, all those like the deinstitutionalization concept, and those are also the social workers, the services provided to community. It's kind of another neglected area that's to me it's kind of very personal and important.
What is the level of transparency when they do spend money and provide these types of services, such as for children with disabilities? Do you think the public acknowledges the transparency? Is there transparency?
You asked two questions: why the level of transparency, and then the public acknowledgement. Those are two important and separate questions. So this morning I was looking at the Yerevan city interactive city budget. It's amazing. It's like super interesting. I mean, like you can kind of look into the level of details you want. It's like the challenge is that we as the people, we never look at it and we never see that this is it's our money, we need to manage it. Right? It's every person living in Yerevan has a stake in that money, in that budget, and we need to be, I mean, what we do is like we're looking at, like the gifts the municipality is buying, I mean, those, fancy things. But there are like the number of the preschools allocations, like the subsidies, the healthcare institutions, then schools, middle schools, transportation, electricity, water allocations, where they go, and then there is the mechanism, like the city council is making their meeting, they work through the monthly meetings, but they also have citizen reception days, and I have no idea where those days happen, when they happen, and where they happen. So, and maybe I should kind of be more active and kind of see and kind of go connect with my, councillors. So,
Thank you very much.
We'll start doing it, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our guest today was Arsen Stepanyan. Thank you, and continue to follow CivilNet TV.